Hi there, Tim.
Hey,
Happy
Todd.
Tuesday.
Indeed.
Yeah, my name's Todd Schmidt. I'm the village administrator here in Wanakee. And Tim Semen is the community development director for the village. Tim, how long have you been with us now?
I've been here just a little over 18 months, so that's
Okay,
gone by fairly quickly. A lot
it
going on
has a lot
here.
going on. I'm glad you're here. And I've been the village administrator for over 12 years now in Wanakee. So you might not know this, Tim, but with the village board members, I've got 7 members of the village board, 6 trustees and a village president. About 3 times a year, I schedule touch base one-on-one visits. We sit down in my office. We talk about what's going on, how I can be of service to them. What do they need from me? But the first question I always ask is, what are you hearing on the street? What are residents of our village asking of you or inquiring about? Do you want to? So over the past couple of weeks during my meetings I've had, it's been a unanimous answer from my board members. Do you want to guess?
Well, if it's similar to the questions I've been getting since I've been here, I'm going to guess it has to do with a grocery store.
Yeah.
That
all right.
starts with HyVee.
There, you got it.
Okay.
And Tim, I know you've heard the questions. I've heard the questions in my professional role, and frankly, personally, as I'm out and about in the village, am approached regularly by people in the village wondering what the story is on HyVee. So what I'd like to do for the next 10, 15 minutes or so is work together with you, Tim, here on this video to share as much information as we possibly can with the goal of trying to answer, I would say, the frequently asked questions about this project and kind of give a very clear understanding to those who watch this about what the lay of the land is. Basically, spill all the facts.
Okay.
And so I'd like to do that. And I know we'll tag team on this, Tim. And certainly what we share today might create more questions for people, and that's okay too. We'd love to answer those, and we'll inform folks at the end of the video how they can get a hold of us if they have further questions.
Yeah, sounds good.
So yeah, so let me start about the current status of the site. So HyVee owns the property. They own 10.4 acres in the Woodland Crest development area. And I want to clarify that the development area, Woodland Crest, was not developed by HyVee. Woodland Crest was an area of land in the village that was purchased by Forward Development Group. We're going to refer to them as FDG. And FDG purchased this, it's probably about 40 acres or so, maybe-ish. They purchased that for development that they labeled Woodland Crest. And then HyVee purchased 10.4 acres from Forward Development Group. I want to just show, and this is available information on the Dane County website called Access Dane. Tim, is this up?
Yep, I can see it.
So that shows the 10.4 acre site in Woodland Crest owned by HyVee Incorporated out of West Des Moines, Iowa. The property's valued at $3.6 million. And you can even look up the tax history and current taxes. The current tax bill is $74,000. You can look at the tax payment history as well. You can see that since they've owned the property 2020, 2021, taxes have been paid by HyVee on the property. It looks like they do the 2 installments in January and July. So we'll probably be expecting a $30-something thousand payment here to the village before the end of this month. So just wanted to share those specifics regarding the ownership of the site and the tax payment history.
Sounds good.
Tim, can you talk about how this site has been prepped for HyVee? What sort of infrastructure, what stuff is above ground and below ground that's been
Sure.
done thus far.
Sure. Let me give you a little bit of context. And you had mentioned this, Todd, that this is part, and let me know when you can see this. This HyVee is
Yep.
part of this overall Woodland Crest development. And this is a brochure from their marketing materials. But so here's HyVee on the northerly portion of their site, the lands to the south. Many people I'm sure are familiar with the Enovino, which is down there, Sherwin-Williams.
And it actually looks like this is Kramer Development's PR piece, but
correct.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is the site, and there's that I believe it's a 78 unit multifamily building that's under construction right now, along with a multi-tenant commercial where Starbucks is going to go. But anyway, so the north portion of this site is HyVee, and when I prep this slide in anticipation of this question in terms of site development or site readiness. What you're seeing on the screen are the infrastructure, the utilities around the area that have been installed in preparation for HyVee. So the yellow are the stormwater lines and appurtenances, to use I guess a fancy word. The light blue line is for water infrastructure. The light green line is sanitary. So you can see all around the perimeter of that site, the developer has prepared the site for HyVee. HyVee is responsible for the development, including the laterals in the interior of the site. But a lot of work has gone into getting the site ready for HyVee, including grading. I don't know if its final grading is complete yet, but it was a fairly flat site right now.
Right.
So I know a lot of grading had taken place.
Right. So FDG, the developer, basically made this pad ready for HyVee. HyVee has made no investment in this infrastructure besides purchasing the dirt.
Yeah,
you can even see, if you toggle back to the last screen and then come back in, they even put in the culverts where the expected driveway access points are.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, right
here,
there.
And then right in this area.
Yeah, where the driveways are going to come in, even along Simon Crestway there, you can see those little lines that right there. Yeah, that's where the future driveways will be. So FDG also completed signalized improvements at the intersection of Woodland and Simon Crestway. So to be clear, that project, all those improvements were funded by FDG. The village did not contribute to that in any way, nor did we contribute with TIF. So I'll talk about TIF a little later in the meeting, but I think that are there any other details you wanted to give, Tim?
Sure. Actually, let me give you let me show you the site plan for HyVee. Yeah, so what you can see on the screen now, there's actually two buildings. Their primary building, which is on the easterly half of the site, and then on the southwest corner is a convenience store that includes a drive-through component. And then you can see some other little sort of what are called pond stormwater features elsewhere on the perimeter of the site. So parking, stormwater, the main store, and then a convenience store. And that was approved in May of 2019, both their conditional use permit and their site plan, or what we call here their SIP, specific implementation plan. So those are all approved. Well,
yeah, pre-pandemic,
nearing 3 years ago, and 4 years ago almost now.
Yeah. So to cut to the chase on that, the village's plan commission and village board had approved every permitting process required to allow HyVee to break ground.
Correct.
They had taken all those steps and nothing was in the way of them proceeding. I can just make it out right under the word HyVee there in the middle of the building. I see the square footage. It looks like 57,250. Is that right?
Yep. 50,000. I'm sorry, 57,250 square feet. That's the main store size. Yep.
Right. Speaking of that, you can maybe jump off that screen now, Tim. I know one thing that has generated some discussion and frankly, a good deal of misunderstanding in the community is exactly what the village code says and or allows in regards to retail space size maximums. Can you touch on that and explain it? Also explain how it is that the HyVee site, HyVee building is within the parameters that are allowed?
Sure. Let me pull that section up from our code.
Now, remember, Tim, I'm not always the best at this myself, and I don't expect others to be either, but a lot of the acronyms used in the planning industry aren't always intuitive to me. So clarify some of the acronyms as you use
If I
them.
get out of control, let me know. Too much alphabet soup. So this is the section from our zoning code, section 133, that speaks to what you were talking about, which is the retail building size. So right now, per our code, it says no single building used for retail shall have more than 50,000 square feet of floor area, unless, per the next section, it says a conditional use permit, or CUP, may grant approval of a building up to 75,000 square feet. So the HyVee store itself was, what we say, 57,250, so slightly more than the 50,000 square feet.
And they went through the appropriate process to get that conditional use permit from the village board to allow their building to be above 50,000 square feet. Obviously, they didn't come close to the maximum that they could have built. And I can anecdotally assure everyone and share with everyone that HyVee did not request a building bigger than what you see on that plan. That is the design size of structure that they desired here to build here in our community. And I don't recall them asking for something greater than the 75,000 square feet. In fact, I think, Tim, I can confirm that within our combined 14 years with the village, maybe once, if not a couple times, have we even heard inquiries from any interested retail developer seeking development of a size greater than our current code would allow by conditional use.
Right. I've only heard of one. Just one instance.
I can't think of any others. So can you just take a moment to explain what does it mean for a conditional use permit to be required? I think simply it means that there's a few other stipulations or rules that can be applied to a project to receive conditional use?
Yeah, the short version, yes, that's correct. There's conditional uses are those uses that may rise above and beyond what someone would consider an ordinary or customary use. It may generate things like excess traffic or noise or things like that. And those types of uses could be listed under a zoning code as conditional uses, in which the municipality can impose certain conditions about, for example, traffic, noise, etc. And you can see I think it's still on the screen, there are some provisions for Wanakee's retail building size that relate to things like landscaping, traffic impact analysis, and so forth, being required conditions of approval.
Right. Well, good. Thanks. And by the way, this is available on the village's website and can be accessed publicly by anyone. So,
yep, correct.
Now, here's a question. Those approvals, site plan and conditional use permit that have gone through the process, plan commission and I think village board. I don't think site plan has to go to the village board, does it?
That's correct. That stops at the plan commission.
Yeah. Regardless, are those approvals still valid approvals? Since so much time has gone by, does anything happen where those approvals kind of go poof and are no longer valid?
Yeah, there's actually separate timelines laid out in our zoning code for each being that site plan or SIP, specific implementation plan, and that conditional use or CUP. The sunset, if you will, for a conditional use by our zoning code is 12 months or 1 year. So if the activity hasn't commenced associated with any conditional use permit, the applicant would then have to go back to the plan commission to get that approval. So for the site plan or the SIP, the time frame there is 24 months or 2 years. If work hasn't commenced associated with an approved site plan or SIP, that applicant would have to come back to the village plan commission for reapproval.
And to be clear, the conditional use permit would have to go through plan commission and village board.
The CUP stops at plan commission.
Both
the site plan and CUP are reviewed and decided upon by the Plan Commission.
So with that in mind, our assumption is that HyVee understands that they have to come back and talk to us again. They could perhaps submit the exact same site, but I can say and share that HyVee has shared with us as village staff that due to the pandemic changing how groceries operate, and philosophies in the industry and in their corporation, that they expect to come back and request that they'll be seeking some level of modification to the design that you showed just a little bit ago. But I can share that village staff have received no reapplication for either the conditional use or the site plan as of today.
That's correct. Yep.
Right. So that's good. Thank you for clarifying that, Tim, in terms of the current permits. Anything else you wanted to add on that?
Let's see. No, not specifically, unless if you wanted to talk about, I know maybe we'll get to this, but what's going on in other communities, because I can tell you I worked where I used to work. I was involved in HyVee's approval in that community, and I know they haven't started building there either. But maybe, I don't know if you want to talk about that now or
no.
Well,
why don't we at the moment, and then we'll switch to a couple other things. You used to work for the city of Sun Prairie.
I did.
You were their planning director there before you came to Wanakee, and HyVee had a store proposal there, correct?
They did. That was one of the last projects I worked on before coming to Wanakee, and they were very similar in terms of process to Wanakee in that they got through all the entitlement process down to the site plan. And I think in the case over there, they had some CSMs that had to subdivide some lands and things like that. Everything was approved, and in talking to my counterpart over with the city of Sun Prairie, still they're in the same position in that HyVee has not done anything to begin construction on their building in that community.
Yeah. When did you last hear from Sun Prairie about that?
Well, actually, within the last week-ish or so.
Oh, okay.
That they're now what they did say, what this person did say, is that HyVee is and it sounds similar to what we've heard in the past, but HyVee is committed to that community, but they haven't submitted a specific timeline yet. So they said, they own similar thing. They own the land over there. They want to build. They like the market, but they don't have a timeline yet. And I don't know if that has to do with what you were talking about, modifications to a site plan because of post-pandemic conditions and consumer choice and things like that. But very similar circumstance, and we've heard similar things here from HyVee, is that they are in fact committed to our village, but have not supplied or cannot guarantee a specific date certain we're going to begin construction on X.
Yeah, let's get back to the current status of HyVee, at least in terms of what they've told us. I first want to pause and touch base on a little bit of history and something that has been also not clearly understood publicly about this development, the Woodland Crest development and the HyVee project specifically, and that relates to TIF, tax increment financing. So I'm gonna walk through the process that occurred back then. Again, we're going back 2017, 18, 19, right? We're going way back there, and I'm going to anecdotally share the pieces of the puzzle as this project moved forward. At the end of the story, you're going to hear that this site did not receive any TIF, nor is it in a TIF district. So when FDG first approached the village for completing their development, the full 40 acres, they requested that the village consider creating a tax increment financing district to support costs related to the projects and or incentivizing business development. So as we would with other developers, there's a process when a request like that is made. And that process kind of walks through discussions with Plan Commission and discussions with the village board and convening another group called a joint review board, which brings together all the taxing jurisdictions involved in the decision. So the way this played out is FDG made the request, not HyVee. The TIF request was all from FDG. And as that was going through the process of consideration, to the west of County Q, another developer brought forward a grocery development proposal. And that one was for Festival Foods. So simultaneously, we had the HyVee project under consideration and review from a site plan perspective, and we had Festival Foods under review from a site plan perspective. While initially there was some discussion about the west side development area involving TIF discussions never progressed from there, and the process through towards approval of the site plans for Festival Foods did not involve the request for TIF. And as the subsequent process for HyVee was progressing, and we reached a point where both HyVee and Festival saw the progress occurring with each of their developments, Forward Development Group fully withdrew their request to create a TIF district, therefore leaving this project fully without public financing, public assistance in the form of TIF. And it was at that point then at which HyVee completed all of their approvals that Festival Foods withdrew their request for approval. So can that get a little complicated? Sure. Is there more to it? Of course, I can go into more details, but that's a snapshot of what happened, leaving this project as one that is not supported by a TIF district. So there's the history. That's the truth to where things sit regarding TIF on the development. Did I leave any question marks for you, Tim, in that
No,
discussion? Because you might not have even heard all those details.
Well, I was aware when I was working at Sun Prairie that the two competing stores were vying for Wanakee approval, but I didn't know all the backstory.
There, yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So Tim, when's HyVee coming, and when? Do we have an official word from HyVee, and what is that word?
Yeah, so we did actually reach out to them again. They're actually the regional
This was just last week, right?
Right. And this person said, his name is John, their director of site planning, that's similar to Sun Prairie. He didn't say that. These, I guess, are my words. They're very committed to Wanakee. They like the market, but they're not committed at this time to a timeline. So they can't guarantee at this point, oh, we're going to resubmit in February or March, or we're going to break ground in June or September, etc. So we're still at a point, I think, where when we heard from them last year, it's a similar thing. I don't know if hopefully we can get a little bit more detail from them in the near future. But
so that was the week of January 9th that you heard from our contact at HyVee.
Correct.
We have subsequently requested what we could do to facilitate an in-person discussion with them, with staff. We've asked how to proceed up the ladder to get clarification. And I can share that this discussion, this exchange with HyVee just last week, has been a repeat process for us. Has it not, Tim?
It has. It sounds very similar. Yes.
Yeah. We've been asking this question routinely and regularly since the project was approved. So now, obviously, the pandemic changed timing for everybody everywhere, including the grocery industry. But regardless, we have continued to press this issue and urge answers from HyVee. I even recall, this was before you were on board, Tim, we scheduled a special hearing. I don't know if it was before the Plan Commission or the Village Board, to discuss the status of HyVee. And we sent an official request to HyVee to appear either virtually or in person to address the questions that we have of them. And they declined our offer to appear, only to reiterate the same thing that you heard last week about their continued commitment, but unable to commit on a time frame.
Okay.
Right. So is there anything that the village can do in its power, Tim, to force HyVee to get their building built?
No, short answer is really no. We don't have a development agreement with them for things like public infrastructure and so forth. So as the landowner, they have certain rights like all the rest of us who are property owners, but we cannot as a unit of government say, you know, you have to build by August or something will happen, we'll fine you or something like that. No, we can't do that. So we're really, our position at this point is to try and be as cooperative as possible with them and continue to express, I guess, our desire and hope and wish that they develop here. And obviously, I think it would be by many of the village residents sooner than later, but we can't force them.
Right. I've in fact, and I've kind of been discouraged to hear rumor that there's intent on the village's part to make this process difficult upon HyVee, to delay or create challenges for them to develop. And within our realm of ability here as a village, we've quite done the opposite in terms of working to engage them and to lay out appropriate next steps and to maintain ongoing communication. So we stand very ready and willing to continue working with HyVee for their next steps. There is no, I sense no part in the village's leadership of trying to delay or otherwise derail this project.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, what about, Tim, what about other potential grocers? You know, okay, HyVee owns the site. We know what we know, what you just explained, but what about, should we be pursuing other grocers? Are we being pursued by other grocers? Let's chat about that just a little bit.
So I think I mentioned a short time ago that I had heard of one instance where a grocer was interested. That was related to that size question. So I think the companies see this market as a good one, the Wanakee market. But should we pursue them? I guess, I don't know. I mean, they are entitled to go through the approval process. We certainly can't withhold that from any applicant, really. The degree to which we should pursue them, I really think that's up to the village board to make that decision. But
I can at least share from my experience in economic development that you know, the economic power, you know, the power of the economy in business decisions is a whole lot stronger than our approaching business X or Y and saying, hey, would you please come here? And I've actually found that the work to pursue and entice a potential business to come to Wanakee 99.9% of the time it is unproductive and does not result in an outcome. It really is a very, very marked business decision that plays out, very calculated for major businesses and considering locating where they want to locate. But I can share too, Tim, that it was just a couple of weeks ago that I received a call. You know about this from a developer. It's rare that we get calls from an actual grocer. You know, grocery, Acme Grocery. Yeah. Is very rarely that they would call us and say, hey, can I build a store? But I got a call from a developer group or a brokerage group on behalf of an interested grocer who they did not name and said, hey, Todd, I've got a very interested grocer working with us, and we drove around the village and we're looking at spaces. You know, what spaces are available, and we chatted and talked, and I even told the developer that, or the broker, hey, you may even want to pick up the phone and call corporate HyVee to find out if they have any interest in selling. That, you know, we can't force that for HyVee, nor can a buyer necessarily force it, but that's an option too. So if a grocer did come along and say, hey, we've got control on 10, well, however many acres, I think just like we talked about before, Tim, we would afford process, right? We would afford process to proceed through the level of approvals that would be required to accommodate a grocer, whether it's on the southwest corner or northeast corner of the village.
Right, right. That process would be, yeah, open to any applicant, and I guess, yeah, the village board, it would be their call to see to whether or not that particular site would be appropriate.
Right, right. So is there anything that a citizen in their own capacity can do to influence HyVee to build?
Boy, good question. I suppose they could, look for contact persons on behalf of HyVee, whether it's through social media, etc.
Facebook or LinkedIn or
Exactly, to contact them directly, or a representative from HyVee, and just to let them know, Wanakee is interested, and sort of do a very mini, if you will, lobbying effort. Although
yeah, right.
an individual against a corporate wide structure, I'm not sure how
Well,
successful that might be, but
hey, that's in addition
things,
to addition to our messages too.
little things add up. Yeah, little things add up.
We're encouraging HyVee. I can say that for a resident, for a citizen to ask us to do any more than we're currently doing, we don't have more that we can do, nor does the Plan Commission or Village Board, besides continuing to tell HyVee that we are ready to work with them on their next iteration of site plan and conditional use. And we will walk through it with them as promptly as we can, as appropriately as we can, and that we're not in the way to foster their continued development and project here in Wanakee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very true.
Yeah. Well, it's likely, Tim, that we created more questions than answers. I hope we put a lot of answers out there. Certainly, we hopefully dispelled some rumors and addressed what we were hearing about questions. And I really do want to encourage people in the community to seek out factual information on projects of any sort, but in particularly this one that has generated a lot of rumors and frankly misinformation in the community about various aspects of the project. And please seek out facts and confirmed information, and we as village staff are in a position to provide that to you. So before proceeding down the road of dispelling or spreading rumors or misinformation, we want to help people with truth and factual information. And for you to do that, Tim and I both are available here at Village Hall. The main number for Village Hall is 608-850-8500. You can also reach Tim and I by email. Mine is tschmidt at wanakee.com. So TSCHMIDT at wanakee.com. And Tim, yours?
TSEMMANN T7 at wanakee.com. And I may point out too, is if and when, hopefully sooner than later, but when we hear something, we will share it. We're knowing how much interest is out there about what's happening. If we hear something, we will certainly share that, maybe in a forum like this, or maybe other social media or some other venue. But
we're as tremendously eager as all of you are to see this project, see this project progress. Anyway, with that, Tim, hey, thank you for spending the time with me today. Sure. I do hope this helps the community, and please share this information with others who you think may benefit from hearing the latest about this project. Thank you so much.
All right, see you, Todd. Thank you.
Bye. Yep.
Bye-bye.